I would like to introduce my special guest today. Right there, that's Jude. He's our 4-year-old Great Dane who has just been diagnosed with megasophagus. The only thing I'll say about it is it's expensive. Second thing is he's worth it. So, all right, here we go. About 10 years ago, I was watching an NBA game on TV. I don't remember the game. Don't remember why I was watching, but I was watching. And I watched NBA players, which are the best in the world. They are, if you've ever been to an NBA game or if you've ever watched it on TV, oh my God, the things these guys do, unbelievable. But in this particular game, players were missing one free throw after another. And they were clanking off the rim. Some of them completely missed the rim. And the more they missed, the more irritated I got. And it was like, I can shoot free throws better than that. And so I kept watching them miss, and I kept saying, I can do better than that. And so about halfway through the fourth quarter, my irritation level reached a certain level to where I came into my room, put on some gym shorts and a t-shirt. I drove to Dick's Sporting Goods because I didn't own a basketball. I drove to Dick's Sporting Goods, bought a basketball, and I drove to the junior high school that had 10-foot rims and nets on the rims. And I hadn't shot a basketball literally in 20 years. And I knew I could do better than what I had just seen on TV. So here was the deal I made with myself. I'm going to take one practice shot, and then after that, I'll take 10 free throws and see how many out of 10 I hit. So I took my practice shot, I missed. And then I went to the free throw line, and I began the challenge. And I hit 8 of the 10. So comparing myself to those NBA players that I was watching clank these things off of the rim, I was like, hey, 20 years, I haven't shot a basketball and I can hit 8 out of 10. What's wrong with you guys? Here's the problem with that. If I were to then get in my car and drive over to Oakland, to the Oakland County Coliseum where the Warriors play, the Golden State Warriors, and I were to watch Steph Curry shoot. Now, if you don't know who Steph Curry is, look him up. He's the greatest free throw shooter in history. He's the greatest shooter in history. But if I were to watch him hit free throw after free throw, and I can say this 150 times because he would hit 150 out of 150 during practice. If I were to watch him, I would walk away and say, I totally suck. And here's the weird thing about that. Nothing about me changed. In scenario 1, I hit 8 out of 10. Scenario 2, I hit 8 out of 10. And in one position, I found myself thinking, I'm hot stuff. And in the second scenario, I found myself saying, I'm terrible. So here's the thing about that. Nothing about me changed. The only thing that was different was those to whom I was comparing myself. That was the only difference. And so there's a verse in the book of 1 Corinthians, and let me just preface this with, you may be a Bible believer or you may think the Bible is fraudulent. Either way, this is a really good statement. And the statement is this: it is unwise to compare yourselves among yourselves. Why is that? Here's the problem. When you compare, you lose. Either way, you're going to come out on the losing end of this when you compare yourself among yourselves. So what are the problems with comparing? One, let's suppose you compare yourself to someone who's far behind your status, your capability, your talent, the things that you do well. You could come away feeling very satisfied, very, very good. It's a good feeling, when like, hey, I'm good at this. It's a good feeling. The problem with that is that you could become complacent with your status, with your talent, with the capability that you have, and you could become stuck where you're at Because everybody else that you've watched do this thing that you do, you're better than them. So the easy thing to do is like, well, I'm there. I've arrived. I'm good. And then fall far short of one, who you were meant to be, and two, who you could possibly be. You could have been miles better than you would have ever thought of being. But because you compared yourself to somebody that was far less than you, it's easy to just say, well, I'm good. Here's the second problem. Let's suppose you compare yourself to someone that is way better than you at whatever it may be. Just fill in the blank of what that could be. Your response could easily be, well, heck with it. I'm not going to do that anymore. I quit. And have so many people in your life miss out on what it is that you're doing. Maybe you encourage people. Maybe what you do lifts people's spirits. Maybe you do things that come away with putting a smile on a sad person's face. But if you've watched somebody do this thing, whatever it is, that's way better than you, you may shut down. And that sad person that you gave a smile to, that person that you encouraged, that person that you lifted their spirits, none of that ever happens because you compared yourself to someone and said, nah, I can't do this. Let's use a comedian for an example. Let's suppose that you're grinding it out in the comedy clubs and you're going from this place to that place. And I know San Francisco has a lot, it's close to here, has a lot of comedy clubs. And there are a lot of people doing open mics and trying and working and getting paid nothing and working their day jobs, going exhausted, sleepy to their performance and doing what they're doing. And then you come home and you turn on the TV, and there's an hour-and-a-half special of Kevin Hart. And he has 40,000 people in a stadium watching him, and he's funny, and he can go on and on. And I mean, he just says, hey, and it's funny. I mean, everything he does is funny. And you say, nah, no more of this comedy stuff. But let's suppose at that open mic place that there was somebody that walked into that open mic place that night to get dinner, didn't even know there was an open mic. And let's suppose that that day or the day before they had been diagnosed with something that was deadly, scary. And they're down, they're hurting, they're scared. And you at the open mic, getting paid nothing, being exhausted, make them smile. You make them laugh. They go to their car feeling better than when they walked in, and they go home and they're happy for the first time in maybe a while. None of that happens if you quit. As a pastor, I was a good public speaker. And if that sounds arrogant, let me just tell you, it took decades of self-loathing and hating on myself for me to be able to say that I was good at anything. That's a long story as to how that developed, but it did. I was a good public speaker. I did well at the job, and I enjoyed it. It was something that I felt very fulfilled in. But while I can say that I was good at it, I was not, let's be clear about this, I was not the best. I'd watched people on TV, or I'd heard others in a church service or something, and they were in another galaxy. There was a man I listened to in the year 2009, and I remember this very specifically. 5 minutes into what he did, and I cannot explain the words that flowed out of him. Not a single note that he had. It just poured out of him. And his oratorical skills were perfect. His intonation was perfect. His tone, his change of pace and pronunciation, he was perfect. And I honestly sit there and the thought crossed my mind, tomorrow I'm preaching and I don't think I want to. I think I never want to do this again. But if I had, let's just suppose, it's an extreme, but let's just suppose I said, that's it. I'm done. No more. I'm finished. Well, there were things that I did well in public speaking. There was one particular Sunday, and I remember this, that something happened. It was very sacred. But I spoke a sermon about love your neighbor as yourself. And the first part of that we easily ignored. I'm sorry, the second part. Love your neighbor as yourself. That second part is brutally difficult. I challenge you now. Go look in the mirror and say, I love you. It's a challenge. And so I spoke the sermon. At the end of the sermon, we did an exercise with this. There were mirrors available in the building. And so I had everyone turn to the mirrors and say, I love you. And there was an audience full of people that could not choke out the words. It was quite a moment. And at the end, we weren't a Pentecostal type church at all. We weren't the kind of church that would really do this kind of thing. But over the next 10 minutes, I watched nearly all of the congregation fall to their knees, weeping. It was a moving moment. That never happens if I compare myself to the guy that I had heard just a couple of months earlier in 2009. That day doesn't happen. And you know why? Because I compared myself. On the opposite end of that spectrum, I've heard, I'm sorry, this doesn't sound very good, but let me be honest, because I think we can all kind of associate with this. Those of us that have been to a lot of different churches and heard a lot of different speakers. I've heard some public speakers that were not good. It was rough. It was a struggle. It was brutal. And if I walk away from that and I'm saying, hey, I'm good. Well, the problem with that is again, as I mentioned earlier, I may get to that place where I say, I've arrived. I got this down. And my effort level began to dip because, hey, I'm good. Because when I compare myself to that guy, I'm coming out on top. I'm the winner here. And the problem is, again, I compared myself. And so I lose when I compare myself to the guy that's way better than me. And I lose when I compare myself to the guy that's not nearly as good as me. And so again, when you compare, you lose. So let me tell you this. If you rent and everybody else owns, and one of your best friends from high school that's the same age as you, they own a house the size of a city block, and it's paid for, and your rent just went up, don't compare. If you drive a crappy old car that spends more time in the shop than it does in your driveway, and you're walking down the sidewalk to go pick it up again because it's just been repaired again, and an old friend that you know drives by in a brand new Escalade, and they open their window and they wave at you and holler, hey! Don't compare. If you're a nice person, if you're kind and you go out of your way to be loving and kind to people, and you've had one health problem after another, and when you get over one health problem, you get diagnosed with another one, and it just keeps going, and it seems to never end. And somebody at church that sits down the pew from you is the meanest person you've ever known in your life, and they haven't been to the doctor in 42 years. Don't compare. If you're a loving, giving, forgiving, kind, gentle person, and everything in your life is going wrong, and your next door neighbor, who is hard to deal with, knocks on your door and screams at you because a limb from your tree just fell into their backyard, Don't compare. If you're in high school or college and you're hot and your classmate is not, don't compare, because the passing of time can be cruel. Don't compare yourself. Don't do it. Why? Because you're responsible for you. You're responsible to be the best that you can be. You're not responsible to be that other person. You're not responsible to own their home, to drive their car. You're not responsible for any of that. The best that you can be is what you're responsible for. To make the world in which you find yourself a better place. That's the best life you can possibly ever live. I know a lot of people who have a lot when it comes to money or possessions, cars, houses, whatever. And it looks really good from the outside. Let's admit it. I can easily look at what I have and what they have and kind of go look in the mirror and say, hey, what's wrong with you? What can they do that you can't? You're a screw up. I can easily do that if I let those thoughts enter my mind. Because I look at the surface and it looks really good. But underneath, so many of those who have so much are actually unhappy. Many of them are miserable. They live unhappy, unfulfilled lives. But the happiest people I know, regardless of what they own or don't, the happiest people I know are those who do their best. And that's a simple statement, but it's the truth. The happiest people I know are those who go out on a daily basis and they aim to do the right thing. When they see injustice, they speak out on it. They do something about it. When they see someone who is hurting, they help. When they see someone who is lacking, they give. When they see someone who is in need, they help, they do something to make their lives better. When they see someone that is down, they do everything they can to lift up their spirits. They do what's right. Not what is convenient, not necessarily what is easy, but they do what's right. Those are the happiest people I know. The happiest people I know are those who fight for justice, who fight for those in need, fight for those who have had things go wrong in their lives, that go to bed every night and put their head on their pillow. And they know that that day they did the right thing. Those are the people who sleep the best. There is nothing as fulfilling in this world as doing the right thing. It may not be the thing that gets you what others have that you could easily compare yourselves to. It may not be the thing that is as on the surface as good as what somebody else has. It may not be something that a talent that someone else has that you're not even close to, and you're trying to do that thing and you just feel completely inferior. It may not be any of those things, but if you that day have done what's right, what's just, you will sleep well. Again, there's nothing as fulfilling as doing the right thing. And that doing the right thing, that can't be compared to anything. This is my new YouTube channel, and if you enjoy what's here, or if you don't, if you would like and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. And I hope you have a beautiful day.
Let me tell you.